Whenever people think about flying, they probably picture this huge plane with hundreds of passengers. But depending on where you're going, there's a huge chance you may end up on a smarter plane. Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together. And today, we're going to learn about taking a regional flight. If you ever looked out of the window at the airport and you see a small plane and you look like, is that my ride? Yeah, this video is for you. So first starting off, I had to figure out how I was getting to the airport. And this day I decided to take a lift. My only problem with the lift was I had to put my own bag in the car and take my own bag out. And the person driving the lift was a male. And look, like I told y'all before, I'm from the South. And that's not normal. I was just like, okay, well, I guess you're going to eat into this little tip. But then after I get to the airport, I go into the airport and I go to check in my bag. I walk up to the kiosk and, put my little confirmation number in. And I say, I want to check one bag. Why are the bags $50? When did the baggage fee turn to $50? I was just at the airport less than 6 months ago, and I know for sure I paid $40. Why does it cost $50 to check a bag? Somebody let me know in the comments, because what? So not only did it cost $50 to check my bag, I was like, let me wait before I go get in line. They turn me around. I had a feeling that it may be overweight. So I go to the scale to weigh the bag. The bag was 51 pounds. So what did I have to do? I had to take some stuff out of my bag. And thank God I had my backpack. And I put some of my outfits in my backpack. Then I weighed the bag again and it was under 50. So I was like, okay, good. Now we can go get in line to check this bag. One thing I learned about airports, they're basically just lessons of patience. I guess I didn't realize that there would be a line at checking your bag. Usually there's not. So I had to wait in line to check my bag, and I just made sure that I was patient and no reason for me to be upset. It's the airport. You're going to have to wait, more than likely. But once my bag was checked, it was time for me to head to security. And since I have TSA PreCheck, I went through the TSA PreCheck line. The good thing about having TSA PreCheck is most times you don't have to take off your shoes. You don't have to take things out of your backpack or whatever bag you're carrying onto the plane. And usually the line goes much faster and it's much smoother. So if you fly a lot or plan on flying a lot, if I were you, I would look into getting TSA PreCheck. It just makes life a lot easier. And it's not as expensive as you may think. But just look it up. It may be worth your time. The airport that I flew out of, the terminal I needed to be at or the gate I needed to be at was closed. So I came in on Terminal C. I had to get to Terminal B. And the only way to get there without walking forever is to ride the subway. So I read the signs until I found out where the subway is, which was a long walk before I got to the subway, and I proceeded to get on the subway. And I really think that some people don't take into account that when you fly to major airports, they're basically like little cities with long distances between gates. And you have to make sure that you keep that in mind when you get to the airport to account for that time of going through the lines and actually getting to where your gate is. the subway, I had to walk and walk and walk until I made it to Terminal B. And when you're taking those regional flights, this is when things start to look a little different because the airplanes are smaller. They usually go out of a different types of gates. You usually can't just walk up to the gate bridge inside to get to your plane. You usually have to go outside to get to your plane. So when I walked up to the gates, there it was a range of gates that the plane was flying through, and I knew that this is going to be the type that I have to walk down some stairs and probably walk outside to get on my plane. So after I made sure that my gate exists, because I always do that. If you're saying that I'm going out of B-25, I'm going to go to B-25 and make sure it says the city that I'm going to. I'm going to double check that that's it because they like to change gates all the time. So like, let me check before I go anywhere else in the airport, before I go use the restroom, before I get on the plane. Let me make sure that my gate actually exists. Am I the only one that does that? Let me know in the comments. When you get ready to go somewhere, do you go make sure that your gate exists first before you get food or before you go to the restroom? Let me know. Anytime that you know that you're going on a regional flight and you're going to be in that smaller plane, it still shocks me when I look out the window and say, that's the plane I'm going to be getting on. I like to refer to them as crop dusters. They're so small and the space is so much smaller inside the plane than the normal jets you would get on. So it finally got time to me to board the plane. So you have to show them your boarding pass before they even let you through the gate to go downstairs. They want to make sure that you're going where you're supposed to be going. So I show my boarding pass, I go down some stairs, and then I walk to my gate. While I was waiting there, I did see one of the workers tag a carry-on. So you'll notice that when you fly those regional flights and it say you had a rolling carry-on, they usually tag them and put them on the plane anyway because there's not enough room, there's not enough headspace, which you will see later on in the video. So I finally got to my chance where I got to scan my boarding pass and walk outside to the gate bridge. So the gate bridge is outside, and you get to see a very good view of the plane and what you actually going to be getting on. And I'm 5'8". So when I get on this plane, it's like almost as if I need to duck because the height is not there. It's nothing. It's not enough room. I feel like I have to shrink down just to get on the plane. I could be being dramatic, I know, but still. The one cool thing about being able to go outside to get on your plane, you get to see the plane up close and get to see things that you probably will only see on TV. So you get to be real close and see just the different things that make up a plane and how they're much different than the jumbo jets that you would fly on. So as I got on the plane, the first thing you'll notice is there's less seats on the plane, which means there's gonna be less people on that plane. And there's two seats on one side and one seat on the other. I personally think the one seat is the golden ticket. If you get assigned to that one seat, you don't have to worry about seeing who's gonna have the armrest. However, this time it worked out in my favor because I sat on the window by the two window seats, but nobody ever came. Feel like I hit the jackpot. I could stretch my legs out and have enough room, and I would have more room on this side than I would if I had the one seater. Also, when you pull that table down, it seems a little closer to you than it would be on a plane that's bigger than those that you ride for regional flights. And all the regional flights I've taken, the planes don't have any type of entertainment. So I always make sure I have a book in my backpack or my headphones charged up, my phone charged up so I can listen to something. And I always make sure that I have a jacket because I get cold on planes. Even though you can control your air, you can't control everybody's air. So just in case you get cold, I always recommend bringing a jacket or dressing in layers so at least you can take them off or put them on as needed. So before you get ready to take off, you're gonna want to put that seatbelt on. They're gonna ask you to put the seatbelt on. Please don't argue with those folks. If they ask you to put the seatbelt on, just put the seatbelt on. It's only for your safety because you don't want to get into the air and y'all in turbulence and a plane drops and you stay up. You don't want that to happen. So make sure that you consider your safety first and put the seatbelt on when they ask you to have your seatbelt on. And since nobody was sitting by me for the next hour and a half of this flight, I got to stretch my legs out the whole flight, which was really, really nice. And especially because I had my backpack and I had to put my backpack under the seat, I had still had space. And then didn't have to argue about who was going to get that armrest. And when you sitting in a two-seater, who gets the armrest? Is it the person who sits down first? Is it the person who sits by the window? Or is it the person that sits in the aisle because they don't have the window? Let me know, who do you think gets the armrest when you sit down in the airplane? And here comes the part that most people are curious about. How does it feel to be on a regional flight with a smaller plane than when you go farther distance and you're on a bigger plane with more room? To me personally, it feels that you get off the ground quicker. When you get ready to finally get in line after you go get in line behind all these planes who are getting ready to take off. When you get ready to take off, I feel like when you're on those regional flights, your plane gets in the air quicker. Even though you feel like you accelerate quicker, you get in the air quicker, on these smaller planes, you do feel the turbulence just a little bit more. So when you hit those bumps in the sky, you're gonna feel some bounce. That's normal. Don't be scared. And also, I feel like on those regional flights, my stomach drops quicker. So, like, if we're going up and then say they're trying to just level the plane out, I feel the drop a little bit more than I would on those jumbo flights. Let me know. Does that happen to y'all, or is it just me? But after a few minutes, you might feel a little bumps and a little drops. But then eventually the plane levels out. And this is when I usually take my book out and started reading for my entertainment. And then at some point, they usually come around with snacks. Depending on when you're on a regional flight, those flights are usually shorter. So just depending on how long your flight is, you may not get a snack. But on this one, I was able to get a snack and offered a drink, but I didn't take the drink, but I definitely took the snack. Cool thing about when you get sit by the window, you get to look out the window and see all the different changes in landscape from your starting destination to your final destination. And then before you know it, it's time to land. Of course, on landing, at some points, you will feel the drop. You may feel a little bumps. I always think that the clouds are speed bumps because when you go through the clouds, it seems like it gets a little bumpy. So I'm like, okay, so this is like speed bumps on the road. That's what kind of feels like you hitting a speed bump on the road. Just a little bit of turbulence as you on your way to land. And before you know it, you're hitting the ground and you're driving up to the gate. And as soon as they say it's safe, I unbuckle my seatbelt. As I'm getting out the plane, you can see that the overhead bins, they're not on both sides of the plane like they are on those bigger planes. They only have them on one side. And so that's why they check a lot of those roller bags because one, they probably not gonna fit up there, and two, there's probably not room. So after I get out the plane, the first thing I'm trying to look for, where is baggage claim? Let me get to baggage claim to get my bag because I'm trying to get out of the airport. as I see that bag, I start smiling. Because one of my biggest fears with flying, I'm going to get to my destination, but my bag doesn't. So I grab my bag and I head to exit. And this time, thankfully, somebody was picking me up, so I didn't have to worry about rideshare. Oh, another thing that I did not mention is usually on original flights, there's only one bathroom on those planes. I always suggest go to the restroom before you get on a plane if you can, but they do have restrooms that are available. Is flying in a smaller plane different than the normal big planes? Absolutely, but not really in the ways that you would think. It wasn't any more uncomfortable than a bigger flight, maybe a little less room, but the seats felt the same. You still get to see the beautiful sights out of the windows, and it wasn't any more scarier than being on a bigger planes. And next time, I hope I get the double seat and nobody shows up beside me. I love having extra leg room and not having to pay an extra fee. If you ever flown on these smaller planes, let me know in the comments what is one thing that surprised you about those planes and what's your favorite thing or something that you don't like about flying on those smaller planes. If you haven't flown at all before, I do have another video about flying for your first time, and I go into more in depth of things that you need to think about before you pack and different ways to help you navigate the airport. Make sure that you like this video, share it with anybody that it can help. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I will be having more travel content on my channel. Thank you for taking your time out today to watch this video, and you already know. Until next time.